Most homes don't suddenly become overwhelming. It happens quietly. One small pile turns into another, and before you know it, the space you live in starts setting the rules. You hesitate before walking into certain rooms. You tell yourself you'll do something later, then later never comes. Mornings begin with a low-level pressure, like you're already behind before the day has even asked anything of you. And after 60, this feeling hits differently. Every object carries a story, a responsibility, or a memory. Your tolerance for daily friction is lower, not because you're weaker, but because your time and energy matter more now. There's also a deeper desire for dignity, for ease, not struggle, in the place that's supposed to restore you. That's exactly where Eleanor Whitcomb found herself at 73. She's independent, thoughtful, and deeply familiar with her home, yet it no longer moves at her rhythm. Nothing is falling apart, but nothing feels settled either. Her home isn't loud or dramatic. It's quietly exhausting. And before we go any further, let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever felt tired before the day even started, just from being at home? Step 1. Stop letting small decisions drain your day. Most people believe a messy home controls them because there is simply too much stuff. But that's not the real problem. Control happens through small decisions. Tiny choices that repeat quietly from morning to night. Where should I put this? Do I need it now? Should I deal with it later? Each question seems minor on its own, but together they create a constant low-level pressure. By the time the day is halfway through, your energy hasn't gone into living, enjoying, or resting. It's gone into deciding. Eleanor didn't notice this at first because nothing felt dramatic. There were no big messes, no disasters. What she noticed instead were pauses. Small hesitations that slowed everything down. She would stop in the kitchen, holding something with no obvious place. She'd open a drawer, stare for a moment, then close it again. She'd move the same item from one surface to another, telling herself she'd decide later. These moments didn't feel important, but they happened dozens of times a day. Over time, those pauses added up. Simple tasks felt heavier than they should. Mornings felt sluggish even when she slept well. She realized her home was constantly asking her questions, and she was answering all of them without noticing the cost. It wasn't her age slowing her down. It was decision fatigue. What surprised Eleanor most was realizing it wasn't her entire home causing this drain. It was one category, one group of everyday items that no longer had a clear role. Things she still used occasionally, but not comfortably. They lived in half-decided places. Every time she encountered them, her brain had to wake up and negotiate. Keep this here. Move it. Deal with it later. That one category quietly controlled the rhythm of her day. So instead of trying to fix everything, Eleanor made a different choice. She focused on that single category, not the whole room, not the whole house. She asked herself which items actually supported how she lived now, not how she lived years ago. She reduced the options. She made the remaining items easy to reach and easy to return. Nothing fancy. Nothing perfect. Just fewer questions waiting for her. The change was subtle, but powerful. Her movements became smoother. Tasks finished faster. She stopped feeling interrupted by her own space. Her home didn't feel smaller. It felt calmer. And most importantly, her energy stopped leaking away through constant decision-making. This step isn't about removing everything you own. It's about removing the need to think so much. Because every unnecessary decision steals attention. And at this stage of life, your attention deserves better. When your home becomes predictable, your mind can finally relax instead of staying on alert all day. Even small wins here add up faster than you expect, because each resolved decision protects your energy tomorrow as well as today. Hold on to this idea, because it matters more than it sounds. When fewer things ask questions, you get your energy back. Now pause for a moment and be honest with yourself. What is one category in your home that makes you hesitate every single day? Papers, kitchen items, clothes, something else entirely? Share it in the comments. You might help someone else recognize the same quiet drain in their own home. Step 2. Close the loops that keep whispering later. Not all clutter is loud. Some of it is quiet, polite, and patient. It doesn't spill over or get in the way physically. Instead, it waits. And it keeps whispering one word that sounds harmless but carries weight: later. Later I'll fix this. Later I'll read that. Later I'll sort it properly. These are open loops, unfinished intentions that stay mentally active even when you're not thinking about them directly. And for many people over 60, these open loops are what quietly drain peace the most. Eleanor didn't recognize them as a problem at first because nothing looked urgent. Her home seemed mostly fine. But once she slowed down and paid attention, she realized how often her eyes landed on things she had promised herself she'd deal with. A folder of papers she meant to review carefully. A lamp that worked, but flickered just enough to be annoying. A magazine article she wanted to read because it felt important. Each item carried a tiny reminder: you haven't finished this yet. Individually, these reminders felt small. But together, they created a steady background pressure. Every time Eleanor passed one of these items, her mind made a note: unfinished, unresolved, pending. Even when she didn't consciously stop, her attention split for a second. That constant splitting is exhausting, especially later in life when focus and calm are more precious than ever. What made later so powerful was that it never asked for a deadline. It allowed things to linger indefinitely. And as long as something lingered, it quietly controlled how settled Eleanor felt in her own home. She wasn't fully at rest, because part of her mind was always waiting. So instead of asking herself when she would finally get around to everything, Eleanor changed the approach. She focused on closing loops, not completing perfect tasks. She took each waiting item and made a clear decision. Some things were easy. Papers she hadn't touched in months went straight out. Books she felt guilty about not reading were returned or donated. The relief came not from finishing them, but from releasing the promise she had made to herself. Other loops needed a different kind of closure. One small repair that had bothered her for over a year took less than 10 minutes to fix. When it was done, the sense of relief surprised her. It wasn't about the object, it was about ending the waiting. For a few items that truly mattered, she gave them a defined next step and a realistic time, instead of leaving them floating in someday. With each closed loop, Eleanor noticed a shift. Her home felt lighter, even though she hadn't removed much physically. The quiet reminders were gone. She stopped scanning rooms for unfinished business. Her attention stayed where she was, instead of being pulled toward what she hadn't done yet. This step matters because open loops steal peace invisibly. They make you feel behind without knowing why. When you close them, by finishing, releasing, or clearly deciding, your home stops reminding you of what's undone and starts supporting where you are now. Hold on to this truth, because it's easy to ignore but hard to undo. If something keeps waiting, it's already costing you. Now pause for a moment and think honestly. What is one thing in your home that has been whispering later for far too long? Something you see often but avoid deciding. Share it in the comments. You may be surprised how freeing it feels just to name it. Step 3. Release what you're keeping out of obligation. There's a kind of clutter that doesn't come from habit or delay. It comes from guilt. These are the items you keep because someone gave them to you, someone might ask about them, or someone once expected you to value them forever. They don't interrupt your day the way unfinished tasks do. Instead, they sit quietly, carrying emotional weight. And over time, that weight adds up in ways you don't always notice. Eleanor didn't think of herself as sentimental. She wasn't clinging to the past or resisting change. But when she slowed down and really looked, she realized many of the things in her home weren't there for her at all. They were there for other people, family members who had moved on, friends who meant well, versions of herself that no longer matched how she lived. Each item came with an invisible rule. You should keep this. What made this difficult wasn't the object itself. It was the story attached to it. If she let it go, would she seem ungrateful? Would she be disappointing someone? Would she be erasing a memory that mattered to someone else? These questions can feel heavier after 60, when you've spent decades showing up for others, honoring commitments, and carrying responsibility. Your home can quietly become another place where you feel you owe something. Eleanor noticed how obligation showed up in her body. A slight tightening when she opened certain drawers. A sense of pressure when she dusted items she didn't even like. She realized she was maintaining these things not out of joy, but out of duty. And duty has a way of taking energy without giving anything back. So she tried a different approach. She separated respect from storage. She asked herself a simple but honest question. Am I keeping this because it supports my life now, or because I'm afraid of how it might look if I didn't? That question didn't judge her. It clarified things. Some items truly mattered to her. Those stayed, without guilt. Others carried meaning but no longer belonged in her daily space. For those, Eleanor found gentle ways to let go. She took photos of a few meaningful pieces. She shared stories with family members before passing items along. In some cases, she offered things back to relatives who might actually want them. And for the rest, she allowed herself to release them quietly, without long explanations or apologies. What surprised her most was how the room felt afterward. Not empty. Honest. Lighter. The space felt like it belonged to her again, not to expectations she'd outgrown. She wasn't surrounded by reminders of what she was supposed to hold on to. She was surrounded by what actually supported her days. This step matters because obligation is a powerful form of control. It tells you what you should keep, how you should feel, and what you owe. Releasing it doesn't make you careless or disrespectful. It makes room for ease, clarity, and choice. Hold on to this emotional truth because it deserves to be said clearly. You can respect your past without living under it. Now pause for a moment. Is there something in your home you're keeping mainly because letting it go feels uncomfortable or wrong? A gift, an inherited item, a reminder of an old role? If you're willing, share it in the comments. You may find you're not the only one ready to loosen that quiet grip. Step 4. Make the house easier to live in than to manage. At some point, many homes quietly change roles. They stop being places you simply live in and start becoming places you manage. You straighten cushions, shuffle stacks, realign objects, and reset rooms over and over, not because anything is truly wrong, but because the house seems to need constant supervision. It's subtle, but draining. And over time, it turns the place meant to restore you into another responsibility on your list. Eleanor recognized this shift when she noticed how often she was maintaining appearances instead of comfort. Things looked fine, even tidy, yet daily tasks still felt awkward. She realized many items were placed where they made sense years ago, not where they made sense now. Some shelves were styled but inconvenient. Some drawers were organized but required too much effort to use. She wasn't struggling with mess, she was struggling with friction. So she stopped asking whether space looked good and started asking a different question. Does this make my day easier or harder? That question changed everything. She paid attention to moments of resistance. Where did she have to move something before using it? Where did she have to bend, reach, or rearrange just to complete a simple task? Where did she feel the need to fix the room after being in it? These moments were signals. The house was asking too much. Instead of reorganizing everything, Eleanor simplified how things lived. She brought everyday items closer to where they were actually used. She limited the number of places things could land, so they always had a natural home. She stopped storing items in spots that looked nice but felt impractical. She chose ease over symmetry, comfort over display. What made this approach work was its forgiveness. The systems didn't rely on motivation or energy. They didn't fall apart on busy days or low-energy afternoons. Items could be put away quickly, without thinking. If something was left out, it didn't feel like a failure. The house could absorb real life without needing constant correction. As the space became easier to live in, Eleanor noticed a shift in herself. She moved through her home more calmly. She stopped adjusting things unconsciously. She felt less watched by her surroundings. The home wasn't asking for attention anymore. It was quietly cooperating. This step matters because managing a home takes energy you don't need to spend. Especially later in life, ease is not about giving up, it's about choosing what truly supports you. A home that works well in the background gives you more space for living, resting, and enjoying your day. Even small adjustments here can ripple outward, saving minutes and patience again and again. Hold on to this idea as you look around your own space. A good home supports you quietly. It doesn't demand, remind, or correct. It simply allows you to move through your life with less effort. Now pause and think honestly. Where in your home do you feel like a manager instead of a resident? Which area requires the most upkeep just to stay functional? Share it in the comments. That may be the exact place where making things easier will change how your whole home feels. Step 5. Claim one place that always feels settled. When a home feels overwhelming, it's often not because there's too much to do. It's because there's nowhere to stop. Every surface feels temporary. Every corner feels like it might turn into a problem later. Your eyes keep scanning, your mind keeps tracking, and even when you sit down, part of you stays alert. That's why this step is so important. Instead of trying to make the whole house feel calm, Eleanor focused on creating one place that was always settled. At first, she underestimated how powerful this could be. One place felt insignificant compared to the rest of the house. But she realized something subtle. When nothing ever feels finished, your body never fully relaxes. When one place feels reliable, your nervous system finally gets a signal that it's safe to rest. You don't need to think about it. You just feel it. Eleanor chose her anchor space with care. Not the messiest spot. Not the one that needed the most work. She chose a place she interacted with every single day. Somewhere her eyes landed without effort. Somewhere that quietly shaped her mood. For her, it was a small area she passed dozens of times without realizing how much it affected her. Once she chose it, she made a clear promise to herself. This place would never become a holding zone. No mail just for now. No objects waiting to be sorted later. No overflow from other rooms. Everything that lived there had one purpose, to support her daily life or bring a sense of ease. Setting it up wasn't complicated. She kept only what belonged. She gave those items enough space so they didn't feel crowded. And once it was settled, she protected it gently. Not with strict rules or pressure, but with intention. If something didn't belong there, it moved on immediately. The space stayed honest. What surprised Eleanor most was how this one settled place began to change her behavior everywhere else. When she felt tired or overwhelmed, she gravitated toward it. When other rooms felt busy, she had somewhere her attention could land without effort. It became a reference point, a quiet reminder of what calm actually felt like inside her own home. Over time, this anchor space influenced the rest of the house. Eleanor noticed she stopped dropping things randomly. She paused before creating new piles. The settled place didn't shame her or demand perfection. It simply set a standard. It showed her that not everything needed to be in motion all the time. This step works because it gives your mind certainty. You don't need a perfectly organized home to feel okay. You need proof that peace is possible and repeatable. When you have one place that always feels settled, organizing the rest of the house feels less heavy. You're no longer chasing calm, you're returning to it. Especially later in life, having one steady place matters deeply. It builds confidence. It reduces stress. It gives you a sense of control without effort. And it reminds you that your home can support you, not demand from you. Remember this line, because it carries more power than it sounds. One settled place changes how the whole house feels. Now pause and look around your own home. If you could choose just one place to always feel settled, not perfect, just dependable, what would it be? A table, a chair, a corner, a surface you see every day? Share it in the comments. That one choice could quietly change everything. When control comes back, the change doesn't announce itself. There's no dramatic makeover, no moment where everything suddenly looks perfect. Instead, it shows up quietly, in ways that feel almost ordinary, and that's what makes it powerful. Eleanor noticed it in the small moments first. She sighed less without meaning to. She stopped pausing at doorways, mentally preparing herself for what she might see. Her shoulders relaxed more often. The house no longer felt like something she had to brace against. One of the biggest changes surprised her. She stopped apologizing. Not just out loud, but internally. She no longer felt the need to explain her space, justify her choices, or rush to move things when someone came over. The house felt ready enough. Lived in, but settled. That quiet readiness gave her a sense of dignity she hadn't realized she was missing. Confidence returned in subtle, steady ways. Eleanor moved through her home with more ease. She trusted that things would be where she expected them to be. She wasn't second-guessing herself or negotiating with clutter all day long. The constant low-level pressure faded, and in its place came a sense of calm control. Not rigid control, gentle control. The kind that supports you instead of demanding from you. As days passed, she noticed something deeper shifting. Her patience improved. Her focus lasted longer. She enjoyed simple routines again because they no longer felt cluttered with friction. The house stopped interrupting her thoughts. It stopped reminding her of what she hadn't done yet. And in that quiet, something important surfaced. For a long time, Eleanor had believed she was falling behind. That she should have managed things better. That everyone else seemed to have it more together. But standing in her home one evening, she saw the truth clearly for the first time and said it out loud to herself. I wasn't behind, I was surrounded. Surrounded by too many demands, too many unfinished expectations, and spaces that no longer matched the life she was living now. That realization changed everything. Staying organized no longer felt like a chore or a responsibility. It felt natural. Because organization wasn't about fixing herself, it was about shaping her environment to support her. Her home began reflecting who she is now, instead of who she used to be or who she thought she was supposed to be. And that brings us back to the heart of this message. Your messy home doesn't have to control you, and now you know how to keep it that way. Not through pressure, not through perfection, but through thoughtful choices that protect your energy, your time, and your dignity. If this story felt familiar, you're not alone. Let us know in the comments what part of your home has been quietly controlling you, and what it would feel like to take that control back. If this video helped you see your space differently, please like it so it reaches others who need the same reassurance. Share it with a friend, a sibling, or anyone who might be carrying that same quiet weight. And don't forget to subscribe, so you can keep walking this path with us. Wise Aging Seniors, where your home finally works with you.